The APAC news drought is finally over. The Seoul Infernal, previously known as the Philadelphia Fusion, have announced their starting 5 for the upcoming 2023 season, and it consists of Mag at tank, MN3 and Zest at DPS, Fix-Up main support, and Skewed at flex support. To give a general consensus of how I feel about this roster as a whole, they're good. They're decent. Not amazing, not out of this world, probably not super threatening when it comes to making a title run, but all things considered, with everything that's gone down in the East, with the uncertainty of that region and all the teams that it contains, this roster is not bad, and right now, I feel like it probably has what it takes to be one of the better teams of the original teams in the APAC region. Again, I'm not expecting this team to go super far this year, but they do have what it takes to be competitive. They have a lot of motivated individuals with pretty high skill ceilings, guys who want to prove themselves, people who are hungry to realize their potential and stop being criticized by the public. I'd like to think this team, if they piece it all together, could be like a top 2 or 3 team in the APAC region. There's no guarantees, but on paper, they definitely have that level of potential, if not a little greater. They're a decent team, I really mean it. I don't hate them at all. I don't expect them to win anything big this year, no tournaments or championships, but they're gonna be there. They'll be present, they could be a playoff team. But if that's gonna happen, they're going to need a few things to go their way, which gets us into the analysis of every individual. So we know a bit about MN3 and Zest already. They've been on this team. It's their second year in the league. We already knew they were coming back as well. This isn't news to us. They got re-signed a long time ago during the offseason. So we'll focus more on the new guys first. The one I want to zero in on is Mag. This is probably the most notable signing they made this offseason, at least in my eyes, as Mag's career so far has not lived up to expectations. He's definitely not been a bad player. He's been relatively consistent and more on the good end of the spectrum. However, a lot of people thought he would be one of the best tank players in the league pretty early on in his Overwatch League career, based off of the high ceiling he showed us in his Contenders days. And he's just never really reached that kind of level. It always felt like something was missing, like he wasn't quite consistent or dominant enough. There were moments in time where he wouldn't look as good as you'd hope. Still generally a pretty decent player, consistent numbers, really solid Winston player, decent Rhine, and even showed he can play the Junker Queen well. But it's always those flashes. He teases you, he shows you that he can be that guy, but he doesn't always show it every single game. It's been an endless cycle the last 2 years with Mag, leading to some fans calling him a bust and one of the biggest disappointments in Overwatch League history. Now, would I go that far? I'm not too sure. But I will admit that Mag has a lot to prove this year. There is a major chip on his shoulder, and this is such an important season in his career. Not just for the Infernal and their performance, but his future in this league could ride on how he performs. Based on what we can gather from Twitter and this information that you see now on screen, it seems that as of right now, Seoul Infernal just have their 5 players, and we don't really know what their 6th player will be. It could be another tank player, it could not, and if it's not a tank player, that means Mag is going to have to step up majorly. During his Washington days, he had some help, and even when he got traded to Boston, he got some help even though it wasn't really his team to begin with. He's always had that other tank player to fill out the missing holes in his hero pool, but if he's going to be the only tank on Seoul Infernal, that leaves a lot more questions on how reliable he can be. Just based off of his future and what it means, there might be even more pressure this season than he felt during his rookie year when he was trying to live up to the hype, you know? There is a ton going on with this guy, although I do have confidence he can handle it, as Mag has always shown he's a professional, he works really hard, he tries his best. If anyone can do it, I feel like it's him. Which gets me to my next point. I firmly believe that it is definitely worth giving Mag another chance. In my opinion, he gets a little overhated. I do agree that he has been a disappointment so far, and he hasn't lived up to the expectations that we put on him during his rookie year and beyond, but he still is a talented guy, and this is his first real chance on a new team. Yes, he did get traded to the Boston Uprising, but that was never his team to begin with. It was an awkward situation. Clearly Punk was the guy they needed, so it's not his fault. He didn't really get that serious second chance. Now he gets that on Seoul Infernal as their true dedicated tank. And as crazy as it may sound, I feel like a lot of the time he was not getting the proper support on the Washington Justice, and he was still putting up decent numbers. His backlines these last couple of years have been anything but stellar. He got the pleasure of working with some good Boston supports like Crimzo, for example, for a couple of games, but that's really the best he's ever gotten. You're not making it easy on yourself to succeed when your backlines consist of Closer and Bebe, then Opener and Krillin. These are average to below average level support lines, and yet Mag could still put up some pretty decent numbers in the process and make some contributions for his team. I'd like to see Mag with new coaching, a different system, and a different supporting cast of players. That's what I want to see. I want to see how a different team can play around him and if it can make a difference. Mag is a flexible guy who is smart, who has succeeded in the past, so give him the right pieces and he might be able to take you there again. However, if he's going to redeem himself and have a good season, it's going to require some help. That's where we have to talk about the support line. Not gonna lie, it's a little surprising to see Fix Unskewed suit up in Seoul uniforms. It's not what I was expecting at all. I'd heard rumors that they possibly fumbled away a couple of better opportunities, but I will say, this isn't a bad support line. If they're not at least average, I'd be surprised. I think pretty highly of Skewed. I thought he did an excellent job on the Gladiators the last few years, and he deserved a real shot of being the true starting flex support on a roster without having to live in anybody else's shadow. He can be a solid starter in this league. He has shown that. He helped the Glads win some big games these last couple of years. He could be an excellent counterpart to Shu and could sit side by side with him and be just as good of a contributor with his BAP, his Zen, even some Ana, and of course his Brigitte. Skewed brings a good bit to the table, and he's a veteran at this point. He is a veteran who knows this game well, and he's improved tremendously. He has confidence at this point in his career, and he deserves a starting opportunity. He's really earned it. I don't know if Skewed can necessarily be like a top percentile starting flex support in the league, but he could be decent. He can be above average. There's absolutely no doubt about it. It's just a matter of if he can be a true dedicated flex support without anybody holding his hand now. He's not just coming in to play a lot of Brig and maybe some Zen next to Shu. He is the guy now. He is the big playmaking support on this team. And with that comes some pressure. Whether or not he can handle it, we'll find out soon enough. But regardless, I think given the circumstances and the low number of supports available on the market, this was probably one of the best possible flex support signings the Seoul Infernal could have made, and I approve. Skewed has a lot of potential to improve his game and take it to the next level. It's not the most glamorous pickup in the world, but it very well might get the job done, especially in what looks to be a weaker APAC region. I'm fine with Skewed. The more interesting pickup here has to be Fixa. Not gonna lie, it's a bit shocking to see Fixa return. They had previously released him, and in general, he was mostly just an okay/average main support in 2022. He was nothing special. He has potential, but he just wasn't performing at the level you'd hope. And because he was just okay, it felt like Seoul Infernal could upgrade. They could do better here. But I suppose with how weak the market was looking and how bad the APAC situation is, you might as well go back to something that you know and that the coaching staff is familiar with. Generally, I don't love the Fixa signing. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, that's for sure, but I don't know if he necessarily elevates your team to a new level, at least on paper, as it felt to me like a lot of the time he would make some pretty notable mistakes in the clutch. Not all his fault, but there were some clear-cut mental errors. He showed he's young, and he's improving, and he's growing as a player. He's been more of a project, I'd say, and, if you want to take your game to the next level immediately, you have to avoid projects and go all out. But it seems that Seoul Infernal are willing to be patient and develop him further, which also could be a good thing. It's not necessarily a terrible signing. Right now, it doesn't feel like the best, but there is room for this to turn into a pretty decent pickup, for the simple fact that Fixa is a pretty talented guy. For a main support, his mechanics are pretty darn solid. He hit some pretty sick sleep darts on the Ana and was clutch when he needed to be. He's got a good Brigitte, he has a good sense of how that character works. It's more so just a mental lapse thing with him. And the good news for Seoul Infernal fans out there is that kind of thing is coachable. He has the talents, it's just a matter of having the brains now, and that's something coaching can fix. With enough time and dedication, they can get him to play smarter and make him avoid those mistakes that costed the Fusion some games last year. So general consensus on Fixa is right now, here in the present, it doesn't feel like the most amazing signing in the world, but there's room for it to turn into something good that you end up appreciating. I'd keep an eye on him. If him and Skewed get it together and they play at a high enough level, it's going to benefit the rest of the team. Mag's going to play well, the DPS are going to do their thing even more efficiently. Seoul Infernal could end up having a good year if this backline pans out. It always felt to me like the backline was the biggest weak point of the Philly Fusion in 2022, and it was a thing that sometimes held them back from being something better. So by fixing that heading into 2023, you're in a pretty decent spot with this team. So yeah, I think Seoul Infernal have given their star, young DPS players a better supporting cast potentially than what they had last year. There's no guarantee on that front, but they have the room to do that and to be a stronger team and more respectable overall, and maybe have some more consistency. And for the sake of these young DPS and Zest and MN3, that's pretty exciting stuff, as last year they were already star players, borderline role stars, each of them. Zest was literally in the MVP race, like that's how good these guys were. They were one of the more formidable duos in the league. They're young, they're motivated, they're constantly improving, and from the sound of it, based off of what we've seen on Twitter, they were pissed off when they fell short last year. They are hungry to win and to get better and to take that next step, which is exactly what you want to see. This Seoul Infernal squad could end up sneaking up on some people and be one of the more fun teams to watch over in that region. It's just a matter of if they can reach that potential. Potential is the big word to use with these guys. A lot of their guys have high ceilings, it's just a matter of if they can reach it now. They have the mechanics, they have the intelligence, now they just have to put in the work. But yeah, that essentially concludes my opinion on the 2023 Seoul Infernal roster. Let me know what you think about this team down in the comments below. Do you think I'm on the hopium with saying they have potential, or do you agree with me? And if you enjoyed this content and you want more Overwatch League news just like this, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I mean it. There's a Washington Justice video coming tomorrow. Their official roster will be done by then, so you definitely don't want to miss it. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.